All right, so we're going to get this discussion kicked off. Got Daniel Frakes here to talk to us about some gear and his setup. And you got multiple setups, or is it just the one?
No, I have set up for quite a bit of things actually.
Oh, nice.
I run off of a kind of how far I have to walk setup.
Right on.
I would say once you start progressing over 5-6 miles of having to walk in plates, while they're good, they stop bullets after 5 or 6 miles having to walk to get to wherever you're having to go with these plates. They start to become your performance becomes degraded to the point that it's not actually beneficial anymore. You know, I don't get me wrong. I've had to do stuff in the Army where I've had to wear plates for long periods of time through long movements. And at 20 years old, I can say that even at 20 years old, I could tell you honestly, that sucked. It's horrible. Your shoulders hurt, your legs hurt, your knees start to hurt, your back starts to hurt, everything's sore and tired. Your ability to get that explosiveness when you need it starts to go away, because you're already going to have I guess I should probably start out with all my gear is pretty much set up for a martial aspect. I'm going to go hunt people with weapons, using weapons. So to get to the point that I was getting at before, you get this adrenaline buildup. Well, this adrenaline buildup really only lasts 20-30 minutes tops.
Right.
Once that adrenaline's burnt out, it feels like you just took one of the strongest painkiller / muscle relaxer / sedative you've ever had in your life. You're immediately down. You feel horrible. It feels like you've been up for 4 days straight. Once that long you've been burning through your adrenaline supply, once your adrenal gland basically goes, nope, no more.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got no more to give you. It turns into a really, really sucky and not decent experience. So you add that on top of 5-6 miles of wearing heavy stuff, and it starts to affect you more and more and more. So after about 5 or 6 miles, I won't wear plates anymore.
All right. So that's something you'll figure out your mission requirements beforehand and then decide your kit.
Yeah, pretty much. We had an acronym in the Army. It's called METTC. It's Mission, Equipment, Time, Terrain, Troops, and Civilians on the Battlefield. Well, everything's dependent on that. The gear that I use is pretty much runs off of that type of system. I have gear for longer range. I have gear for shorter range. I have gear for more, I guess, hostile threat. I have gear for less hostile threat. And it was expected threat anyways. And I mean, we all want to be the guys like, yeah, I'm carrying 50 magazines. You know what I mean? But you
Right.
also carry that 50 magazines. You have to be realistic with what your body is physically capable of. So, but I got a couple of setups I can go through. I guess I'll just start out from nearest to farthest, like distance wise.
All right.
So what I have here is my plate carrier. It's a LBX 0300. It's basically, LBX is London Bridge Trading Company's London Bridge Tactical. I don't know, LBT. Everybody knows LBT. It's their kind of budget line. You know, it's all made from the same equipment. It's all made by the same guys. It's all made from the same materials. It's
Right.
just, it's not designed for a government contract. So they're not charging government contract prices. There's guys that will go out and pay, you know, $350 for a 6094, which is, this is a copy of, but I'm not that guy. I don't need side plates, and I'm not carrying a Prick 152. So I don't need that. I actually have a, I don't know if you can see it. I have all my cords wrapped in here for tourniquet. It's kind of broken down right now because I've been relying more on this just for the house because I can throw this on pretty quick.
Is that your Helicon?
Yeah, but I'll get to that just yet. Or I'm not going to get to that just yet. I also have a kind of a dangler pouch. I think it's just a cheap brand, but I went with a multicam aired for that, so it's immediately distinguishable as a different pouch. There's a special reason for the pouch. It's got a big, obviously I got the big Red Cross on it. You know, it lets everybody know immediately that pouch isn't for tools or anything like that. That's actual, like, I'm laying on my back with a gunshot wound. Here's this pouch, fix me.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of fast clips. You can see them right here. At any time, I can change out most of my equipment to make it scalable for whatever I need to do because of things like these. I think these are like $3 for Mil-Spec Monkey, $3 or $5 for Mil-Spec Monkey. And they'll clip right into most plate carriers so that you can add something like a chest rig here to it and it'll just clip right in.
All right.
You might play around with the side straps to get those to fit into molly webbing or whatever attachment you have. That's kind of the downside of this plate carrier, is it isn't a straight, like the more low profile plate carriers, they just have a piece of Velcro right here and that's what the cummerbund slaps over, and then you got to buy a chest rig for it. Well, this is designed, it's an older design, so it doesn't have that. Basically, most of this has been broken down because I'm using parts of it for other places. Plus, I'm trying to switch over to an elastic cummerbund at the moment. That's kind of on the way. But the most important, the most important bit before you even transition to a plate carrier, I recommend everybody getting first. I don't even know why I started off there, is a belt system. Now, this is literally something that somebody can make up fairly easily. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, me and you, about belts, and this is a old USGI pistol belt. I've had this for years, and it's not the best. It's not ideal. You have to use belt keepers with it. And I mean, as you can see, this is what, you know, I have my pistol mags, little knife, defensive blade. It's supposed to be stuffed up under the pistol mallet, but I pulled it off, or I pulled it off my bedpost, so it's not sitting right just yet. Normally it sits like this. Just a mag, one rifle mag is all I need, or is all I figured I need, and Leatherman. And then I go to the IFAC on the back. Being in Michigan, the chances of having to do something in woods is pretty high, so I have a field blade. This isn't really for fighting. This isn't for defensive use. I'm not a big proponent of knife fighting. I have guns, so I don't have to, like, actually go toe to toe with people.
Right.
And then I have a Safari Land QLS. No, it's not a QLS. I don't know. It's the Safari Land for the Berettas, like the M9A1 or 92A1s, and it'll accommodate a light.
Right on.
And then I have my compass on my belt. See, it's not too heavy. I try to keep it pretty minimal because I come from the world I came from. You didn't have a pistol most times,
Right.
and you really, these are really kind of these belt systems get uncomfortable if you start having to go longer distance. That's kind of why I'm transitioning to a 2-belt system. An actual dedicated 2-belt system that's got the Velcro inner belt. I'm actually waiting on G code for that. So
Yeah, everything's kind of on hold.
yeah. And so it's this setup right here isn't ideal, but it works. You know, I got a set of belt keepers from, I think Blackhawk made them, but they'll belt if I need it to belt. They'll belt to my belt that's actually around my pants. It's not, like I said, it's not the ideal, but cops have been doing it for decades and it works for them.
Right.
I don't really prefer it because you're having to sit there and like, hey man, can you buckle my belt for me in the back? And it's just it's rather annoying. But that's like my base. That's my base. That's going everywhere I go. And I got that. I definitely have an IFAC. This is a full size IFAC. I think this is another LBX product. But the good thing about this is I can pull it and rip. It's got this little tab I can press in right here, push out, and then once I pull on that little wing right there, it'll uncinch these little. There's a cable in here. Snatch it out, and everything will pretty much drop out of it. So, and then waterproof everything. Waterproof all your medical equipment. Like put it in a Ziploc bag if you can't have it sealed.
Right.
But from the plate, I would wear that belt with that plate carrier. I have a little flip down admin panel that, like I said, I took most of this off because it wasn't really needed at the time. This was right now. This is my plate carrier is kind of set up for my wife. If bump in the night happens, she can throw that on because if I go down, she has to be able to, protect the bloodline. So,
Right.
So onto the chest rig, I guess. That this is more of a. This is more of a. I have to be quick, and I have to be quicker, and I'm able to. I'm well aware that I'm able to kind of move in and out of an area without really risking myself to enemy fire or any type of opposing force. This is a Helicon TMR, and this is kind of what I use at night or at the house. As you can see, it's a little 4 magazine chest rig. It's got a little admin panel here. You can see the admin. I got some stuff still in there, a little magnesium rod, some zip ties, cork for if I have to make quick camo or anything like that. Most of it's left or is out of it right now because it's actually in my deployment kit, and I'll get to that later. But TQ or tourniquet,
Right.
and then this is the IFAC right here. And then it's got 4 what could be pistol mag pouches. I basically just have some chalk in one. The chalk is just for marking entrances and exits that I've been in. So if I'm having to go into a building I'm unfamiliar with, or subterranean if I have to, like storm drains, I can mark where I've been so I know this is how I get back out without getting lost, essentially.
Right.
And then, you know, a little handheld light. Yeah, this one's pretty good though. I would use this for kind of a search and rescue, like a more civil search and rescue. If I didn't have to, like, if I still had wildlife I had to worry about, bears and such. Bears, big deer, moose, something like that. I would use a rig like this because it gives me the ability to still carry rifle rounds. But even if I need to, I can take these 2 out right here. I can take these 2 mags and their little pouch out, and so it becomes real thin,
Right.
packed down to where it's basically the same size all the way across.
Oh, nice.
And then I have a little little carabiner here. That's for my whistle, my shift fire, lift fire whistle. But yeah, I would use that for like a search and rescue type of role, or I guess a foraging type of role.
Right.
If I had to go look for stuff, I'm not really looking to get into combat. I'm not looking to fight. I have some magazines on me to protect me, but those magazines are really for leave me alone. I'm putting out as much as I can real quick and then leaving. And
Right.
then you, but where's that? I did bring that in. The good thing about this is that, just one second. This also has a has fast deck buckles. I can take this bag right here. This is an old Eagle Industries. I can't think of the name of it, but it's these things are actually like really sought after. They're like medium rucksacks, except they're built to not you need a frame.
Oh, nice.
It's like a medium Alice pack that doesn't need a frame. But as you can see, once I get it all clipped in this quick amount of time.
Well, then we got Kenneth Boyd coming in.
Okay. Before he's coming in, I'll just put this together.
All right. How's it going?
Howdy. Sorry about the late start. My kids were acting up and we had chickens loose and had to go round them up.
That sounds fun.
You're fine.
Yeah.
And we are recording, by the way.
Oh, so I better keep the curse words to a minimum.
But
What are we talking about?
right now, just a chest rig. My chest rig, I run all my stuff off of a system of, I can try and connect as many pieces of multiple systems together to make one system as I can. I was just telling him about this chest rig that I have, that I have the ability to clip in because it's got fast X buckles. I can clip it into my assault pack, and it works the same as if I essentially had a chest rig attached to my my assault pack straps. And it'll I mean, you can see it clips in. I found this out actually doing a 22-mile hike last year, that it would do this. I didn't know that they would actually clip in together. It turns out that they were the same. Not all tactical clips are the same. They're none of that the same format. They're kind of like bolts. Some work together, some don't work together. So like Condor has their proprietary. Blackhawk has their own proprietary. But a lot of the better companies they'll use Fastex, or I can't think of the other company, but they're both interminglable. They're both DoD contract buckles. So once I found out that these two work together, I have a pretty good, what I would use for like a search and rescue type of role, or a like a foraging type of role. Something I'm not expecting too much contact, and if I have to make contact, it's basically going to be either I'm up against an animal, or I'm just putting enough fire down to be able to peel away.
Yeah, so kind of background for Mr. Boyd here. You were explaining earlier when we first got on that all of your gear is kind of set up for a martial aspect.
Yep.
As a civilian.
Yep.
So in like a kind of a militia role, or
either a militia role, or I guess post-apocalyptic. I guess that's the next step of it. But yeah, pretty much. I was 11 Bravo in the Army. I was an infantryman. Most of my equipment is going to be more martial in aspect.
All right.
I'm moving towards more of a, I guess what would be like the standard for like police and just your average armed citizen. And that's kind of where that's the kind of the area I'm getting to, is kind of a blend of, I've come to realization that the days of making 25-mile hikes onto an objective are over for me, especially since, you know, I can always just use my truck to get there. Or if you know, I'm using some type of mode of transportation, and I'll probably end up fighting out of that. That's one of the good things we learned about in Iraq, was use the truck, because the truck can carry more weight than you can. So while I have gear that I can use, I can carry one of my rigs. I can carry 12 mags, you know, 12 mags, a radio, 2 canteens, my field, or my cook kit, food, poncho liner. You know, it's not my immediate go-to unless I have to make that long march, and that's kind of a, I've transferring that kind of reality to a more of a, if I have to start doing long range shooting type of missions, basically. So
I have a question.
Go for it, man.
Where's your first aid kit?
Right here, directly below me, or directly below my equipment. This on the chest rig, it's right here.
Okay.
On my plate carrier, it hangs in the same place. I just don't have it on me. I have to hang on real quick.
Yeah, we went off of his belt system kind of first. So he had his, just like the standard pistol belt, the older model, but he had the
LC2 pistol belt. That's what I have right now. I got a G code that I'm currently waiting on them to fulfill that old order. So Here's where it would be on my plate carrier. My plate carrier is kind of set up right now for the wife to throw on in the middle of the night. So, because I'm throwing on a chest rig because it's already got ammo. Hers, she just needs to be hunkered down in the room until I can dispatch the threat. And like I told Mike, I was like, if I need her to be able to, her to be alive in order to, defend the bloodline type of thing. And so if I've gone down, then she's most likely needing it type of thing.
So another question is, what do you do with your used magazines?
It'll depend.
So,
I've
do a tactical reload. What's that?
I've done the dump pouch system. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I mean, I see the point of it, especially because, like, I'm militia, man. I don't get a guy kicking me a bunch of rounds. You know what I mean? I'm either militia or I'm, armed citizen. I'm not dumping mags, like it's 3-gun competition or it's a police shooting. Either one of those, they go back after it's over and pick up the magazine. My objective might carry me 150, 200 meters away from where I just dumped that magazine.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of carabiners. Here, I'll show you my.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of carabiners and the old school Magpoles. The old turn of the millennium Magpoles right here. Yep.
Yeah.
And because all I have to do at that point is I'll make some noise, but I'm already making noise anyways. Is clip it in and it ain't going nowhere. I pretty much have a carabiner on all of my equipment just for that purpose, and it's a non-locking. And I'm also a fan of the L. The L reload, just because that's we figured out it works, and you're like you're able to. I mean, if I have to, once the magazine's inserted, I can shoot use like this. It's not the most efficient, but like my platoon sergeant said one time, is if you can't handle to shoot 5.56 one-handed, then or you can't shoot an AR, or like what would be an AR-15 here, but an M4 then one-handed, then you need to find a different job within the Army, because it's like I said, it's not the most efficient, but those magazines can be life or death. So
there's one slight not alteration, but modification you might want to consider. I've seen the German special forces, their reconnaissance detachment do it, and what they do is they use a larger 550 cord loop, so that when they grab their fresh magazine, they put their hand in that magazine through the bottom of that loop, and when they drop the old magazine, it's already on their arm, and they just put it back on there, and they dump a fresh magazine in. So it saves the time from having to hook onto a carabiner. It's looped in your arm. After seeing those guys, it takes a lot of practice to get into that loop, and if they can't get into that loop, it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit of training. So what I do is I'll take my pinky and I'll grab this 550 cord right like this, and then drop the magazine. So I already got a hook there, but I also have a carabiner that I hook when I get.
That's
minor
actually
little things.
Because I mean, it's fairly simple. You could still do it.
Yeah.
When you make the turn, I mean, it's not going to be it's going to be. I mean, I was taught, hey man, you fumble the mag, you fumble the mag. You know what I mean? At least you tried. You put that effort in. But if you fumble that first that partially or empty mag, then it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to get your. You like, I came in. Go on, you. I came in at a time when you couldn't go to the gun store and go buy a new magazine because those things were like $55 because of the assault. Man.
So
And then
your system and mine are really close. The only difference is my 11 Bravo time was spent in long range surveillance, and so we couldn't drop scenes. And other than that, there's really not that much difference.
Well, see, and that's the other part we were brought up on is, one, you don't want to be feeding the enemy.
Yeah.
Two,
and also,
it's an intelligence
thing
because we do the same thing off of them.
One of the things you mentioned, and I want to highlight this, is because you said it and it was very correct, is as a type, those guys, what I've seen is they tend to drop their magazines because they do it at the range. But you are correct. Yep. As a militia guy, you can't just go buy new magazines. You need to keep.
Yep, I don't have a logistics source. So that's why most of my stuff is kind of set up for that. I in the Army, like we developed push boxes. So if a squad came under fire, a truck could pull up, kick a box full of magazines out, and leave the area because they're not trying to take rifle or RPG fire, But you still have ammo somewhat near to your position so that you could get ammo, drag it up to your squad, and then start reloading guys' mags, giving them new fresh loaded mags, and just basically pitching your other ones in the box. Well, I don't have that. I don't have that type of coordination anymore. So believe it or not, the next thing I was actually getting to is the old bandolier. It came out of the everybody, all the 11 Bravos I've talked to that got issued these, they said they hated them. Right? I was like, this is like the smartest thing the Army ever came out with. Not only is it a bandolier so that I can carry 6 extra loaded mags in an assault pack or something like that. I can take this, throw it over my shoulder, or throw it over my neck, and I have a chest rig right here if I need it. So I can immediately fight off of this without even having to start stuffing magazines and plate carriers and whatnot. And I'm actually I'm a big fan of altering my gear, I guess, for my needs and my purposes. I recently bought a sewing machine probably 6 months ago, and these guys kind of made fun of me as I was sewing up a purse for my daughter with it, and they didn't I think our buddy Richard didn't understand what I was doing. And, oh, that's gay, blah blah blah, And no, I was like, no, man, I'm training myself how to do this stuff by doing dumb, tedious stuff that I have to basically design on the fly. And
you've been making a lot of stuff lately between that and your gear.
Yeah, I
dabbled in Kydex.
I adjusted I had one of the old Blackhawk L racks. They're originally designed for, I think, it's a LBT 16 or 1961 knockoff, but that Blackhawk made in the early 2000s. Well, I had one in Iraq. Turned out it was too big. Most of the time, it just got hung on the turret of the turret door of the Humvee, and because it was just too big, I couldn't get in and out of the turret of the Humvee fast enough if I needed to. So I just would take it off, throw it on the turret shield or turret door. Well, I got another one for nostalgic purposes. I gave that to a private that once when I was getting out, and but I got one for nostalgic purposes. Started running that for a little bit. Pretty much came to a conclusion that I needed to start working more with plates. Stepped away from the long range patrol type of thing, and well, I've come back to it to a certain degree, mainly because I'm getting into more longer range shooting. See, I used it when I was in scouts because it was good for that role. It was if I had to go long range, a multiple day with a limited resupply, I could do that. And like I started off with this is most of my gear is systems are designed around a certain amount of distance I have to move.
Yeah.
I'll move on foot. If I'm having like I told Mike earlier, is if I'm having to walk farther than 5-6 miles on foot, the plates go away. That it's not feasible for me personally at that point, and still be able to retain the strength I need, the speed I need, the explosiveness when I need to make that sprint across the street. You know, my feet start getting degraded, my knees are getting degraded. I'm 36 years old. I'm not 19 anymore. You know,
You want to know how old I am?
I'm
47, and I'm still in.
Well, hey, you got more strength than I do, man.
I've been in since I had my 18th birthday in basic training.
I was the same way. I got gassed on my 18th birthday.
Yeah. Hey, you want to hear something interesting?
What's that?
I was a combat veteran before I even got to my first duty station.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I started off as a radio operator, 25 Charlie. And at AIT, they picked me and a few of my guys to go to additional skill identifier. So I stayed there at Fort Gordon. And that was when I was in basic training, Desert Shield kicked off. And when I went to AIT and stayed there for ASI, a week and a half before we were going to graduate, Desert Shield turned into Desert Storm. They cut our orders because we were already MOS qualified. They sent us over to Desert Storm. I was a radio operator with a maintenance or mechanized infantry battalion. I was there for 3 months, and then after I was all said and done, I was never assigned to them. I was detached. So I show up in Germany to my first duty station. I had more ribbons on my chest than my battalion commander did. Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is I went from a combat zone with infantry to a movement control battalion that actually worked side by side with civilians and had no idea how the tactical army lived. And I was a brand new private. Talk about shifting gears.
I could only imagine.
Yeah.
I was the complete opposite on that. I did my 14 weeks and at Benning, then went to airborne school at Benning with 500 other infantrymen, then went to RIP, and then that didn't work out. They obviously don't want color deficient people. Then got to 25th, and they sent me to well, they didn't send me to. I did the indoctrination program for 25th LERP or LERS, and then that made it through the indoctrination week, and they just found a guy who wasn't color deficient and said, "Hey, we don't want this guy," and he could do all the same stuff that I could do. And then got sent to the line, and I was there for most of my time. I spent 6 or 7 months in my scout platoon, but that was all training time. I was pretty much I was an RTO for most of it, though, or for most of my time in. I've got a lot of time sleeping with a radio next to my ear. So,
Yeah. When were you in?
02 to 07. And I did,
Oh, okay. You still
Iraq.
had the smaller radios, right? Or did you have the bigger Stingard?
I had, what is it? 146s or, ASIPs. I had an ASIP.
Okay. Yeah, it's that's the latest generation of Stingard's radios. So
Yep.
I
No,
had the big one.
I didn't have the big vehicle version or nothing like that. I had, just the little, I call them little because compared to the Singars, they're little. They're still like this big, and like 40 pounds. But
yeah, oh, the ASIPs are still Singars. They're just the latest generation. And I did as an RTO. I was doing stuff with HF radios, TACSATs, and all sorts of extra stuff. So
yeah, for my indoc period, they hand me this like $250,000 camera, and they're like, "Here you go." They're like, "Don't lose that." I'm like, "I'm not losing this thing." Like, because they're telling me like, "This is like an expensive camera. Do not lose this thing."
one of the things why I asked you about the first aid kit is you put yours down below. Yours is much bigger than mine, but it's also centered, and I like that. So if you look at mine, this is where my pack is,
Yep.
first aid pouch, and it's not the most comfortable when you're laying in the prone. But as a soldier on the field, you're not so much in the prone.
Yeah.
But if something's wrong with this arm, my right arm, my left arm, I can still access this, and it's front and center if I have to deal with anybody else. It's
Yep, and
just much easier right there. Most of the guys I know of, they'll take it and they'll put off of one side, and then you can only get it from one hand.
Yeah, I have like on my long range kit that I'll bring up here pretty soon. I have a setup like that kind of, but I'm also moving towards the I guess the Marines are the ones who started really doing it a lot, but they started wearing fanny packs and using the fanny packs as their IFAK for in the front, and it's for that same purpose. It's the reason I went to the underneath my gear for it is I don't have to worry about it being in the way when I don't need it, but when I need it, I can immediately get to it. Because I tried the off to the side thing, it doesn't work. You're shooting if you have to go prone. I mean, and let's face it, if you're getting shot at, you want to go prone is at least as far down as you can.
Yep.
And as physically possible to still make shots, but it still allows me to get into prone without jacking up my one side of my body or the other side of my body, and then it's out of the way. That's what I love about it. It's out of the way, but it's there when I need it. And I even do the same on my belt. You can see on my belt, I carry two IFAKs, and I actually carry three once I put a pack or put either a salt pack or a ruck on. I'll have three at that point for buddy aid. So
yeah, I like the idea of a battle belt, but I haven't used it yet. And one of the reasons why is I'm in a forward support company, and you're all vehicle based. You don't have to think about super tactical this and that like you do on a line company.
Yeah, but, and that actually that makes sense.
Yeah.
Most infantrymen, I would never recommend a battle belt to them. I would never recommend a battle belt to them. I've tried it. I tried it in Iraq to go to a belt system. This is at the time when the belt system was better because you're doing stuff like subloads because of the big IBA. And that was the reason that I went to the belt system now is I'm not wearing a big IBA. I am carrying a pistol now. So I have to have that ability to carry a pistol, which my belt affords. But I wouldn't recommend it for a normal infantryman just for the fact that it doesn't provide you anything that your plate carrier doesn't provide. It doesn't give you.
Yeah.
Except the only thing it does is,
Unless your plate carrier is a little too packed,
yeah.
then maybe a belt system is okay. But as far as weight distribution and dealing with fatigue, a plate carrier is far better.
Well, it isn't just that. It's that, and your average infantryman isn't sitting there and going, all right, well, I have this system set up for 5 or 6 miles. The op order said, we're only going 5 or 6 miles. Let me do this. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that ability. These things suck when you actually have to start rucking with them, when you have to start, I haven't found a good way to ruck, to actually throw on a rucksack with a battle belt.
With a battle belt?
Yeah. And it's because of one, I'm not using a dual belt system. This is just belt keepers and a belt. It's the old LC2 style, the old Alice style pistol belt that I changed to when I started actually looking at the system. Like I said, I got a G code on order right now, but this thing's on order. So I think I'm waiting on 25 days right now for it. So it's been a while. But I've never really liked the belt system, because it's always ends up sliding to one side unless you have belt keepers. And I didn't learn the belt keepers trick until probably 2-3 years ago. So
they're good for short duration, like quick assaults, but for patrolling,
basically,
yeah, it all depends. They have their place.
And that's kind of where I'm at on it. Is I've kind of, I heard it explained for weapons. It's the open arms room theory, right? Like SF, they have their open arms room theory. Well, I have the same thing kind of, except it's more of a, what is my gear, what is my mission, and what is the gear that I need for my missions.
Yeah.
But I guess the next thing I'm getting into is I've been using I was leadership in my militia, the militia that I was in for a while, and I've kind of we had a falling out. Mike knows all about that, but it's
a falling out in a militia group? No.
Yeah, I've heard of, right?
No, well, it wasn't just me though. There was another 11 Bravo went out about a month before that. I think out of in 6 weeks they kicked out 5 vets. So it was one of those that we started seeing hey, leadership isn't working the way it should. Anyways, but I picked up one of these, the Molly butt pack, and when I was in scouts, I was a company level sniper attached to battalion level the scout platoon, because they lumped all the snipers in together. Well, I learned about deployment bags there, about how you can run your ghillie, but you still need equipment. You can run just the ghillie, but you need your equipment too. And then when I was in RIP, anybody who was in RIP during the early 2000s, or RIP or Ranger School during the early 2000s, knows about the 2-quart canteen you have to carry everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Well, when you're in an airborne TRADOC unit, I think they're TRADOC. I don't know if RIP's considered TRADOC, but you're not allowed to have stuff in your pockets, and you can actually get tore up pretty good for having stuff in your pockets. Well, your 2-quart canteen becomes a purse. So I took that concept, and I use this for most of my training stuff that I have in here. I have training meds, my little you know, rubber bands, batteries, notepad. It's just stuff to do that I could use for a training environment. And normally I keep my my op order kit in it. That's got the Green Army Men, chalk, different colored ropes, so that I can set up an op order. And that's what I use. But I've actually been thinking about moving that using that maybe as a kind of a fanny pack for my long range kit that I'm about to show. But that thing, it's actually worth it pretty good. It keeps a whole bunch of it's a purse. I mean, what else do I say? It's a tactical purse. It has all the stuff that you need, and I can easily just throw it in a rucksack and forget about it, or I can use it for other purposes if I have to. Like I can carry binos with it, T-handle torque wrenches for optics, data book, a dope book, you know, my camo, stuff like that. My actual camo tools if I have to, like folding saw, pruning shears, stuff, pens, pencils. You know, it serves a pretty good purpose on that. So that's kind of it goes everywhere I go, because I don't know what I'll have to throw in it real quick. This is the LRAC that as you can see, it's I don't know how well you can see that. It's got the ability to store. It's got the ability for 12 magazines, 12 GI mags. It's initially, I'm not mistaken, it's a knockoff of the LBT 1961, which was made for SWIC units, the special boats for the SEALs, their teams. The thing that it works out great for as an infantryman in long range is now I'm able to ditch the ruck. I'm not having to carry the ruck. Like if I have to move, if I have 2 days to get somewhere, quick, fast, I'm not stopping to bed down, then that's what I bring out.
There is one, I like that, because for certain missions, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The one drawback is you got to ruck 10 to 12 miles, and then you go to your objective, and you got to assault through your objective. You don't have a rucksack to drop if you have that. You have all your gear. So it is very good, and I know a lot of guys, I used to have one like it too, for long-range surveillance when you're doing like 2 weeks behind enemy lines.
Yep. And
it is awesome. But if you're thinking more along the lines of, shoot, militia is a pretty interesting role, because you can cache stuff everywhere.
Yeah, but then you always also encounter has my cache been found? You know what I mean? Did somebody see me cache it and I didn't see them? That's my thing behind caching, is it's keeping that security of my equipment. That's where I get to the point where I'm like,
yeah.
I don't like leaving equipment into different locations just for that purpose. And the fact of that I might never be in that area to where I need that equipment ever again. And I just cost myself 500-600 rounds, whatever else I put in the cache with it, food, water, etc. So this is, like I said, this is like a straight, my long range, like, I guess, insurance policy type of gear.
Yeah.
I have the ability that if I needed to with this, because this is a hydration carrier, cheap Condor shit. but it works for what I need it to do.
That's what I got on my back.
Again, Fastex buckles, with some malice clips on here if I had to attach it to something else. But and then I ditch that, and I can throw on a ruck if I had to go even further for multiple days. I figured it out. I can carry probably, I don't know, 2 days worth of actual hard scrapping, with 2 days worth of food, 2 days worth of water, and I can filter water. I can water in Michigan isn't hard to find. I can carry gear like binos. I can carry cameras if I had to. If I really had to, I could throw a sketchbook in there, in the hydration carrier. Whoopee, poncho, if I had to bed down, and then my food, my cook kit if I had to cook, because this is also kind of a winter kit also, and my theory behind that is for snowshoeing, basically, that a kit for snowshoeing. If I'm having to snowshoe and I get into scrap, I might have to expend more than I normally would, because snow degrades your mobility, even with snowshoes. I've actually thought about going to one of the South African, one of their like their body rigged things that they have. It looks like a tack vest, except it's got 2 canteen pouches, and they're back canteen pouches, and food and water and stuff like that. And that's kind of the direction that this kind of went to. But about the altering gear, this was designed before the IFAC was really a thing. You had basically you had a combat lifesavers bag, and then a couple of field dressings. I mean, when I got deployed,
Yeah.
they gave me 2 field dressings, an ibuprofen, and an amoxicillin.
That was one thing that always got me, is your first aid kit was a field dressing. No,
Yeah.
that's a field dressing. You come up with the IFAC. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty cool. They other than the universal camouflage pattern on the IFAC, that was pretty well designed.
Yep. I'm a big believer in IFACs. I'm a big believer in CLS altogether.
Yeah.
My company was really lucky. We had our battalion, like, I guess, senior NCO medic. The higher ranking of the NCO, the medic NCOs, was our battalion, was our company's NCO, senior NCO medic. So he was able to instruct. We got 100% CLS qualified within the first month and a half of being in Iraq. So that was a big plus, and it just went from there. Like I said, I carried this, and I've carried this exact kit, except for the alteration that I did to it in Iraq, and where I would put a IFAC, and as my secondary IFAC, as you can see right here, I actually sewed in some Velcro, and I have a spot to loop in a tourniquet with a shock cord.
Yeah.
And
I had the same thing, pretty much.
Yeah, it's the same concept. It came off of a Condor pouch, or the actual pouch I use is a Condor Ripaway. But that's where I would carry all my my actual. We were all CLS qualified, so most of us had IVs with us, because at the time it was stop the bleed, push fluids, stop the bleed, push fluids, stop the bleed, push fluids. Don't tourniquet unless
they don't let CLS do IVs anymore.
Oh, they don't?
No.
that's I mean, I don't know. Times have changed.
Yeah, but I think it's good because now that we're all in Garrett, spend more time in Garrison, they spend more time sticking each other, trying to get their hangovers fixed.
Yep. Oh, that was a thing even when when the CLS was everybody stuck. It was well, looks like I'm practicing on myself today.
Yeah.
But now the good thing about but I would carry a 1,000 milliliter bag, or is it 1,000 or 10,000? The big bag, big rectangle, big cylinder rectangle-ish. I'd carry one of those, the starter kit, 2 starter kits, 3 Israelis, and that would all fit in this. I mean, these pouches are designed for saw drums. They'll fit saw drums or 2 100-gram boxes for a 7.62. And I don't have access to IVs, and I didn't like the system, so I altered it. I altered it for my use, anyways. But yeah, it still gives this still gives me the ability to carry binos. It gives me the ability to basically carry any mission essential stuff I need. I mean, it's got a slot for the tubed parachute flares that you screw the top off and you put it up underneath and you hit it and it throws a parachute flare up. It's got spots for those. It's my, I guess it's my long range patrol kit, basically. And then
I think one of the things that I probably differ from you is I got the G-Code Scorpion. They're not, I guess you call them tactical tacos. They're like a knockoff brand. One of the things I like about these is they give you enough texture that you can't just pull them out easily. Well, you can pull them out easily, but they stay in if you're upside down.
Yep.
But a lot like the standard issue load bearing equipment, the fighting load carrier is what they call it now.
Yep, I got
are fully collapsible. So when I pull this out and I'm done with it and I want to put it back in, that's really easy for me. A lot of like that L rack, you can. Some of those are rigid, and they're. I had old Blackhawk chest harness; those were good. The ones they issue with now, they collapse in on yourself, and try putting the magazine back into it just sucks.
Oh yeah. We were actually. I'll show you. Hang on real quick. This was going to be the budget.
Mike, you're quiet.
This was the.
Yeah, you guys are the gear guys.
This is the I've had to do this with the group that I was in, the militia group I was in. Everybody be asking like, what do I get for gear? I can't get gear because it's too expensive. And I throw one of these up. I throw the link for one of these up.
Better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. I'll tell you this. When this came out, when we got issued these, and I realized how much better it was, the modularity portion of it was.
Yeah.
This thing in Iraq, because I was having to go in small spaces, inside of turrets, that thing went away.
Yeah.
That thing it just went away. It got stuffed in an A bag for a while, and it really only came out for dismounted patrols.
As a vest, it's not bad. It's pretty well made as far as the vest. Especially with the mesh. It's got some good ideas. I just don't like the collapsible magazine pouches. That's all.
No. The magazine pouches were shit. We've replaced. The only thing that good came out of the magazine systems for those were the shingles.
Yes.
Then you could carry the shingles.
Yeah, I got 3 on this side and 3 on that side, and I've stuck with that. Those are good. The double stack. The only guys that I ever see to do the double stack are right in the front, and they don't want anything on their sides. Okay.
Yeah.
But I still prefer the singles.
The way I ran the shingles on that was I ran the shingles up front, and then I would put 2 on the other side, what is it? The dual pouches that came with the rifleman kit right here. And we didn't even use the grenade. They took our grenades away like 3 months into it. So we weren't using grenades very often. They gave them back to us for Najaf, but they they took them away for the longest time. And then we're like putting them in cargo pockets because they took, no, but we never had them. So we weren't using grenade pouches for anything, but like an earplug pouch. And even the canteens, I broke out a canteen cover for one of those. And my thing is like, you know, you'll see guys try to actually stick a canteen in those. I was like, yeah, you've obviously never went from the LC2 canteen pouches for like the Alice canteen pouches. Those were baller. Those worked. They should have never done anything different with those. Is when they started adding that strap over top and that little flap thingy that goes into the strap goes into, is when everything got messed up.
Well, the funny thing is that most of the soldiers I know of, when they first get it, they're not smart enough to take the strap out of the flap.
Yep.
The flap is only used if you're using it for not a canteen, for general purpose.
Yep, and that's what it got used for most. Is like most of the guys I knew that used those, they used them to carry their night vision. They'd cinch it because they were able to cinch it down and clip it in. They'd use it for their night vision, for their PVS 14s.
See, I ditch all canteens and I go straight Camelback.
I have Camelback. I've gone away from canteens. I went to Nalgene, and I went to Nalgene only because I've done rucks here in Michigan where it was like 17 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And, where's it at? The little nozzle piece for a Camelback. This little piece right here will freeze.
You know what? You know how to fix that?
I have no clue. I've yet to do it. See, I was in Hawaii, man. Like this cold shit's new to me.
You wear your Camelback inside your shirt, and then when you're done drinking, you stick it right back in your shirt.
That's actually a pretty good idea. I switched it. I was carrying. Luckily, when I was doing that ruck, I was carrying Nalgene's for the weight. So I'd already had Nalgene's to begin with.
What I do is I have a Camelback mule, and I use that as instead of a butt pack. And then when I have to get my ruck on, I just take my Camelback off and I lay it on top of I strap it to the top of the rucksack, and I still have the straw. But I hate to cut this short, guys. I know I started in late. I apologize, but I got some things to do with the kids going to bed and stuff. So
hey, you're good,
it's nice. Frakes, nice to meet you. We'll talk to you guys later.
All righty,
Yeah,
man.
and we'll get you on again.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Have a good one.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, do you have more?
Yeah, I got just a little bit more specialized stuff. Went over the assault packs, using the assault packs for add-ons for anything that I can't carry on my gear. This fast tech buckles come into play again. I got this right here. This is a TOG.
Hello? Hello? Where are the kids? Outside with the animals? All right.
But there he goes. But this is a TOG, and what this is a ghillie that isn't attached to your uniform like most ghillies are. Most ghillies are an actual most real ghillies that you would see at a sniper school or in a sniper on a sniper team are sewn onto a set of like BDUs, DCUs, right. Some type of utility or some type of uniform. This has the ability that I don't have to change my uniform. I'll have to destroy a set of uniforms and I can unwrap it. It's got a hood. This is more specialized. This is for stocks and actually in a firing position. Has a long range shooter. And then I also have a tripod. I'm not going to get that out though, but that's kind of my long range shooter kit along with my deployment kit that I showed. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I mean, it gets into money, but it's one of those that it's a, for me anyways, I have the ability to bounce back and forth between different jobs because of my experience. Like if I have to be, say, an RTO, I know how to be an RTO. I know how to work radios. I know how to speak on radios, how to defeat the adrenaline rush to be able to speak clearly and calmly on a radio, even under fire. You know, I have the ability to, because I have, combat life-saving experience. I have the ability to patch people up if I need to, so I can bounce into a not a medic role, because I think that that's an actual, like, a profession you need to be trained at. That type of role, I think that that's one of those that you should have that experience role, like that actual qualification for that job. So I'm not going to say that I would be a medic, but I could definitely be, I guess, a medic's assistant if I had to, or in the event of no medic, that I can kind of fill a better role than just your average guy that has an IFAC and doesn't know how to use it.
Right.
So that's why I'm carrying 3 IFACs if I need to, which most of the times I do anyways, just because it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But I could also go into a role, a long range shooting role, or just a straight direct action. I'm assaulting this objective with this role, or I can go into a more reconnaissance type of role where I need to collect information. And I mean, honestly, if I really had to, I could probably do that role even without gear if I had to, but it doesn't mean I want to.
Right.
So, I mean, that's for your average person. Your average person doesn't need all the gear that I have. It's just basic. If I was to tell, like I said earlier, if I were to tell somebody to get anything that they were just starting out, they didn't know what to get, start with something like this fighter's load carrier. They're like $25 on Amazon. You can get them in, I think they're like $50 with the multicam now. These are the Woodland ones are getting harder to find. But you can, I mean, you can pick those up easy. The ACU version, the UCP pattern, the universal pattern, the gray and the darker grays and tan. They're not the best for like actually camouflaging you, but you can always spray paint them. You can always, the same way you would spray paint, you see people spray paint rifles, you can spray paint those. This is what I would recommend to people. Get this and gear and see if you actually, your experience dictates your capabilities. I know that 5 or 6 miles is about as far as I want to walk with plates on, because I've had to walk farther with them. You know, I won't wear a belt with certain gear because it defeats the capability of the more important gear, which is, and that should be said first off, like, everybody wants to carry a pistol. Not everybody needs to carry a pistol. Like in a martial role, and if you're a rifleman, the likelihood of you needing to carry a pistol is probably slimmer than getting struck by the lightning. The pistol traditionally has been an administrative tool.
Right.
You know, NCOs, when at the beginning of the beginning of American martial history, NCOs carried pistols for one purpose. It's because they stood at the back of the formation in combat, and their pistol was to be used on anybody retreating. This is legitimate, comes out of Baron von Steuben, who wrote pretty much the very first doctrine for the United States Army. That came straight out of his book. An NCO's job is to stand at the back of the reason the NCO stands at the back of the formation is because he is to shoot any retreaters.
Huh, that's interesting.
So that right there shows you what the administrative purposes of a pistol are. It isn't so much, while it is a very handy close quarters tool, I'll say that, you know, it's morphed, it's found its own little place past that administrative history. The rifle is still it's still your number one tool. If your
Right.
rifle goes down, your responsibility as a rifleman to your team isn't to immediately pull a pistol like most people would think. You know, well, if your enemy's farther than 25 yards away from you, you shouldn't even be touching the thing.
Right.
Like, let's face it, you're not making a 25-yard shot with a pistol with multiple guns going off both ways. That's I mean, can it be done? Sure. Has it been done? Probably.
Yeah,
Is
but
it?
it's not the most effective tool. Pistols
Exactly.
suck
But
at
it'd be a
killing
lot more
people.
easier for you to just clear whatever the malfunction is in your rifle, get your rifle back up and start shooting again. You know,
Right.
so that's,
Especially if you have teammates to cover you.
and that's what it is. Like, this gear that I have does me no good as a single person. Like, most of this gear has absolutely no purpose for me. You know, what is it? The Lucas from T-Rex Arms.
Right.
I said it best. If you're throwing on a plate carrier, night vision, all this stuff in the middle of the night, and you have way too much time,
Right.
you should be fine at that point. You know, you're never going to get that plate carrier on in that time unless you live in a mansion by the time that somebody's already rummaging around your house. You know, it's going to be, you're going to grab a weapon and you're going to move to that sound in the middle of the night. You know, and let's face it, I take a 100-yard shot in a civilian setting with a rifle, they will crucify you on the stand.
Yeah, most likely.
I mean, unless it is an active shooter and you just happen to be in the right place in the right time and you had a rifle, like, you know what I mean? Guys shooting up, like the guy in Texas that just happened to be clean, or I think he was cleaning his rifle when the shooting started or something like that. That's the only reason he had his rifle, or he would have approached with a pistol.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we moved to gunfire, but, like, let's face it, at 100 yards, that's not a self-defense issue anymore. We don't live in a stand your ground state. I mean, we have certain degrees of it, but you know, we have a duty to retreat, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's just more prudent to retreat. We
Yeah,
do
that's what I
stand your
mean.
ground, but at that point, at 100 yards away, like, are they really a threat to you? Are you really in immediate?
Yeah, in immediate danger. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of, you know, this stuff isn't for your everyday carry. I mean, this is for an everyday carry.
Right.
You know what I mean? This and you know, where is it? These three things are for your everyday defensive use.
Right.
You know, that this This stuff isn't for your everyday defensive use. This is for my government has went completely tyrannical and is using force on its civilians. Or
there's a breakdown in the
0.000000001% chance that the country is invaded by Canada. You know what I mean? Like, they're the only people that are going to invade us. They're the only people close enough that can and actually have the capability.
I thought Russians were going to fall from the sky, and we got Red Dawn.
Yeah, we gotta run to our
the woods and
surplus shop and our sporting goods store and
right.
Steal all his stuff, get him shot because we stole all his stuff. Yeah, it's this is, I mean, let's face it, that's what this is for. This is for, my government is tyrannical.
Right.
And I've made that progression. And I'm not the only one making that progression towards this is what we're doing now.
Well, it doesn't have to be only tyranny. It could be breakdown of government too.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, it could be a breakdown of government too. There's the prepper aspect of it, of I'm using this in a kind of a community defensive role. A thing that gets brought up is, you know, I grew up in the South and on the coast in the South. I grew up in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. It's where I grew up for most of my life, where I lived for most of my life before I joined the Army. That is a place that is constantly, once a year, has a threat of hurricanes. So at the time, before I joined the Army, I didn't really have any part of this. When I came back, I did for a little bit, is you watched out for the people around you. Because those are your or those aren't necessarily your family members, but they're your neighbors, they're your people. Well, people would come to those areas and looking for places to loot.
Right.
Because where I lived on Hatteras, when the hurricane sirens or when the hurricane flags start going up, it's normally a tourist spot during that time of year. I mean, that's the cottages for miles are packed with people. Think of up north Michigan by the lake. Same concept, except it's on the ocean. Well, those things empty out quickly.
Right.
Once the hurricane flags go up. Well, you still have to defend your little area. You know what I mean? That a real estate agency there going out of business because their houses all got broken into and all their stuff got stolen out of their houses or destroyed. That puts a lot of contractors out of work. When the contractors go out of work, because contracting is really big there, construction and whatnot, because they're constantly doing renovations to the houses, they're doing stuff like that. Once those go out of work, then the stores start going out of work. And you start getting that ripple. We saw this in 2008. I had to leave Hatteras in 2008 because there was no jobs there. When the housing bubble popped, nobody was buying, nobody was renovating. When nobody was renovating, and an island that already has issues in the wintertime trying to fill jobs, when all that goes away, there's nothing there except for fishing. And you know, I'm not the best fisherman. you know, I mean, I could do it, but I'm not very good at it, especially deep sea. I didn't grow up doing that, so.
Well, I think we're gonna have to call it quits here soon.
Yeah, that's fine, man.
I think we got through some good stuff.
You got any questions, man? I know you're looking for new gear and whatnot, so.
The one thing your your paracord on the bottom of your magazines. What did you do to secure that? Just wrap tape around, or?
With yours, because you
Yeah.
have polymers, I would just tape the bottom of it. Mine, because they're GIs, you can lift the floor plate. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can lift the floor
yeah.
plate. And when you
Yeah,
lift the
mine, I
floor,
don't think that would
just
work.
slide it in, and it'll lock it into place. You put little knots on each end, little like once over knots on the end of it, and then it'll lock itself into place. And I've never
Is
had.
that paracord just the sheath, or is that the full thing?
No, it's gutted. You take
Okay.
the white cords out of it,
Right.
burn it off. This is these had dual purposes. One, they acted as mag poles for this type of system was designed in the 90s once the budget went away. After the Cold War budget went away and you were just ditching these things when you shot through it and going
Right.
to a supply and getting more of them. So these things became like accountable. Like I would have to pay, and I think Colt was selling these things for like $75 a piece to the government at the time.
Wow.
So if I lost one of these, that would have been one. I would have gotten my balls smoked off, which is it's PT'd until you basically can't move, and then I would have gotten a statement of charges for it. So I would have had to pay for it twice, basically.
Wow.
So that's why these came into play. And I mean, let's face it, the old 20, they used to issue crates of the old 20 mags in Vietnam. Once the 30 mags came out and these things don't really fit right in a thing, these things started becoming less throwaway, more retain, load back up.
Right.
So that's why the rifle is only good with these. I mean, you can single load that rifle, but I wouldn't want to do that in under fire.
No. All right, I got to take off here. I'm going to put the link to the list you made up of the Rifleman One gear.
Yep.
In the description in the YouTube video.
Okay.
So we'll have that, and then if anybody has questions, we can.
I'll make up a better one for that, just because that's a little bit dated, and
Okay.
it was just for that group. So
yeah, if you want to make another one, I'll post it up, and
okay,
we can do that.
alrighty.
All right. Well, thanks for getting on here. And
two different programs of it. I can go through just the normal, like non-armored and an armored version if need be.
all right. Well, sounds great.
All right, man.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, later, brother.